When we think about the greatest African footballers, names like Drogba, Mohamed Salah, JJ Okocha, Yaya Toure, and Samuel Eto'o might pop up. But there have been many more greats from the African continent, many of whom we never hear enough about. One of these greats is George Weah. Long after ending his illustrious career with over 200 goals and assists in 2003, he remains the only player of African nationality to win football's most coveted prize. But there is much more to his story. Although George's retirement days are well spent in the presidential office of Liberia, his playing days remain a golden standard. Welcome to Football Pro. In this video, we're going to talk about the golden age of George Weah. This channel is dedicated to bringing you awesome regular content in and around the beautiful game of football. Let's dive in. George Weah's story originates from humble beginnings in Liberia's capital city, Monrovia. After his parents separated at an early age, he was raised by his grandmother in the company of 13 siblings and cousins. Daily life was the struggle for George and the family so much that he dropped out of high school in his final year. Luckily, his star had begun to shine on the football pitch. The future held promise for young George Weah. He began his football career at Young Survivors at the age of 15. Little did his coaches know they were tutoring a future Ballon or winner. Even Weah knew little about his golden future while toiling as a switchboard technician for the Liberia Telecommunications Corporation to make ends meet. But it was clear the boy who would become King George was a diamond in the rough. Once he made his official debut for Bangrange United, his impressive performances soon attracted the country's biggest clubs. George would later go on to play for Liberian giants Mighty Barrel, where won a double of the National League title and Liberian Cup in the 1985-86 season. He took a further step in his career to join the country's oldest club, Invincible 11, where he won a consecutive league title in 1987. That same year, Weah's heroics led his country to wins against Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Togo in the West African Nations Cup. Ultimately, Liberia lost the final to Ghana, but King George had established himself in the hearts of Liberians and entered the broader scene as one of Africa's finest. He soon departed his native Liberia to play for clubs across the continent, including Africa Sports in Ivory Coast and Tonnerre Yaoundé in the capital city of Cameroon. It was at Tonnerre that his talent went global. Claude Leroy, the head coach of the Cameroonian national team, paid close attention to Weah's brilliance on the pitch and quickly informed an enthusiastic Arsene Wenger. The hype quickly heated up after Wenger took a transcontinental flight to watch King George in person. After staying in Cameroon for just a year, George Weah was snapped up in a £12,000 transfer move by Arsene Wenger's Monaco in the summer of 1988. His first year in Europe came with the goodies as he bagged the 1989 African Footballer of the Year award, the first of many. Weah took the award home to Liberia to celebrate in a parade, an iconic day for all Liberians. His time with the Monaco side culminated in the 1991 Coupe de France triumph and an European final a year later. The striker's efforts were lauded by the League One award for Best Foreign Player, and he was also included in the 1991 FIFA World Cup. George Weah switched cities in the summer after a multi-million transfer to Paris Saint-Germain. After a slow start, King Weah became an idol in Paris as he led the club to clinch several titles during his stay in the capital. After winning the 1993 Coupe de France, he led PSG to a long-awaited league title in 1994 and claimed a second African Footballer of the Year that same season. The next season would be a repeat of domestic success, as Weah's PSG landed a domestic cup double in 1995, and the King himself won a third African Footballer of the Year award. Beyond the shores of France, he would finish the Champions League as the highest goal scorer of the 94-95 season. He would claim many more individual awards, including the RSSF Best Player Award, Onze d'Or, and the BBC African Footballer of the Year, all in 1995. Oh, by the way, a lot of hard work and care goes into these videos, so if you could help us out and click that lovely subscribe button, we'd greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up too. The high-flying marksman was now in demand from Europe's top elites and eventually signed for AC Milan that summer. Under the tutelage of Fabio Capello, he got off to a flying start at the San Siro, where his trident with Roberto Baggio and Dejan Savicevic was an instant hit. In December 1995, George Weah's run of form would help claim the Golden Prize as he lifted the Ballon d'Or ahead of Bayern's Jurgen Klinsmann and Ajax's Litmanen. He became the first African and non-European player to win the award. The streets of Liberia went mad for him. Success was more complicated on the international front. His native country was not a football stronghold, and in fact, the direct opposite. The country was embroiled in civil war conflict and had a hard time developing talent or even fielding them. Throughout his career, George Weah represented Liberia in 75 matches and found the net 18 times. Although he remains the country's record goal scorer, the national team was barren land. Liberia only qualified for the African Cup of Nations twice. King George led the line in both 1996 and 2002 editions, but they failed to progress to the knockout rounds and have not qualified for the tournament ever since. Sadly, the World Cup was also out of reach for Weah's Liberia. They came close in 2002 but crashed out of qualification on a tight margin to Nigeria and haven't qualified since. He would also receive the 1995 FIFA Player of the Year award in January 1996. King George had finally silenced any doubts about his ability to fill the shoes of the great Marco van Basten and was ready to carve an empire in Italy. Weah's golden touch secured the league title in his first season with the Rossoneri and showed promise of the glory to come. The following season started brilliantly after scoring one of the most iconic goals in Italian football. In a match against Hellas Verona, Weah received the ball at the edge of his own penalty box and immediately drove through the field with the grace of gazelle. He weaved his way through the opposition and unleashed a fantastic ball into the net for a brilliant finish. Life was good, but King George was even better. But the euphoria would not last. In November 1996, Weah got suspended from 6 European games after headbutting an opponent in the tunnel. The match was a 1-1 draw away at Porto, where George Weah broke the nose of Portuguese defender Jorge Costa. Weah stated that Costa had racially abused him during both home and away matches, which led to a violent retaliation. Meanwhile, Costa denied the alleged racial abuse, and no eyewitness corroborated Weah's account. George Weah was duly suspended while his victim had to undergo facial surgery and missed 3 weeks of action. Sadly, his 6-game ban in Europe and Milan's poor outings meant King George won't play any UCL matches for the next 3 years. Despite that incident, George Weah received the 1996 Fair Play Award and finished second behind Ronaldo Nazario at the FIFA Player of the Year award. A barren period dawned on George Weah and AC Milan until they claimed the Scudetto crown in 1999. It would be the Liberian's last title in Milan as the curtains closed on his era. By January 2000, Weah made a loan move to budding English club Chelsea, where he remained till the end of the season. King George brought his magic to Stamford Bridge, where he won hearts with a debut goal against London rivals, Tottenham Hotspur, and further contributed several goals to Chelsea's FA Cup victory. However, his successful term in London did not result in a permanent deal. Back at Milan, the club had moved on and secured another future Ballon d'Or winner, Andriy Shevchenko, to lead the attack for the years to come. Weah returned to England wearing the blue of Manchester this time. Life at Maine Road turned sour quickly after the striker fell out of favor with the manager Joe Royle. Royle mainly used Weah as a substitute and only gave him a full 90 minutes on 3 occasions. He would ultimately leave Manchester City in October shortly after the season began after scoring 4 times in 11 games. This time he returned to France, where featured for Marseille until the next summer. After leaving France for the second time, he would join Al Jazeera in the UAE Pro League, where he played for 2 seasons. In the summer of 2003, George Weah hung his boots. 17 seasons after lifting his first silverware in Liberia, King George had played for Europe's finest clubs and cemented a golden legacy with the grandest honor in football. He had inspired many people both home and abroad for many years. With the ever-unyielding love and support from many natives at home, he entered the Liberian presidential elections in 2005. Although he lost to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, many of his supporters caused uproar in protest of his loss. Many years later, he would become the first former international athlete after his election to the Liberian Senate with a landslide victory. In 2017, his humble beginnings came full circle as George Weah won the presidential elections and became the country's 25th head of state. George Weah's administration has since taken a sports-centric approach to administration, aiming to empower the youth and bring hope to the developing country. President Weah held meetings with Emmanuel Macron of France in efforts to introduce a French-aided sports development program into Liberia. Although President George is now focused on more serious stuff, he made a final appearance for the national team against Nigeria in a friendly. The 51-year-old baller captained Liberia and came off to a standing ovation. Weah's trademark number 14 was retired after the match match in his honor. Exactly what you would expect from a Ballon d'Or winner. Football remembers him as one of the greatest African players of all time. Along with Samuel Eto'o and Didier Drogba, Weah is regarded as one of the greatest African strikers in the history of football. His playstyle combined pace, power, and an insane work rate to bring results to the pitch. Besides his goal-scoring prowess, Weah's major strength was creating chances for his teammates. Thierry Henry has since lauded George Weah alongside Ronaldo and Romario as one of his idols, who changed the game for him and redefined the striker position. In fact, Milan legendary defender Franco Baresi named him in the greatest selection of teammates he has ever played with. King George's genes have not been wasted either. Two of his sons have become professional footballers. Weah's firstborn son, George Weah Jr., started out at AC Milan's youth academy but never reached his potential levels due to continuous injuries. George's younger brother Timothy has impressed across Europe, winning league titles with Paris Saint-Germain, Celtic, and Lille. Timothy chose to represent the United States over his father's Liberia and recently shined for the USMNT at the 2022 World Cup. Thanks so much for sticking around until the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. But why stop now? Click this video right here for more awesome content.